Alright. Let me just double check. Perfect. Alright. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing fantastic. Extend this right here. Cool. Alright. So, I hope everyone's doing well. I want to thank everyone for coming by yesterday for the local Sweet Tea versus Billy stream. We're going over the saga that was over a misunderstanding of not using words properly. But in any case, so for today, we're going to be talking about this ridiculous nonsense that's happening with the Switch 2 and the coverage of the Switch 2. Hello, Cal. Now, when the Switch 2 was announced, and then there was information regarding the Switch 2, um, you find out the price of the games. You find we find that the $80, the majority of the games are online and not physical, which is something that we are dealing with for all games. Steam is not physical. Uh, PlayStation, Xbox, whatnot. So that's kind of like a moot point. The fact that we find out that if you mod the system in any way, shape, or form, they could brick the system. They could like legitimately turn off a system that you pay $400 to $500 for. Um, and it was just bad business practices. A lot, and there were people thumping their chest saying, "I would never buy a Nintendo Switch 2. I am not going to. I'm going to speak with my wallet, and I'm not going to pre-order it. I'm not going to wait midnight release. I'm not going to do all of that crazy stuff." A person that comes to mind that was thumping their chest like they are on a fucking Chad in a football team was someone named Gamers, aka Munahar. And for those out there that forgot who Munahar is, or someone named Gamers is, let me refresh your memory. Munahar came into prominence with commentary elite. He was friends with Nicholas Urio, Chad Logic, Tommy C, um, Augie, I believe. Anyways, so he originally covered technology, gaming, operating systems, Linux, Windows, viruses, deep web stuff, you name it. And he then got into drama. Like one of the biggest things that one of the biggest um controversies or issues that I found Mutahar through was his disdain for Boogie 2988, which carried over to Locale Live. But Mutahar lost points in the public's eye when he was very wishy-washy with his relationship with a creator named Nuxtaku. Nuxtaku was discovered to be using Lolly, extremely graphic, near nigh fucking illegal looking lolly in his thumbnails, in next Taku's thumbnails. Thank you, Gia. Yes, that too. That shit was horrendous too. I completely forgot about that. The when and by the way, I want to make another quick point because I didn't really cover that. I love how when Mama Max was covering Murahara's lies and bullshit on how Murahara was shitting on Mama Max's name, everyone was like, "Oh, Mama Max is can I be trusted or whatnot." The thing is that yes, I know Mama Max did some stupid shit, but he, again, regardless of what you look at Mama Max, he's trying to defend his thing against Murahara's nonsense. He was friends with Murahara. Murahara threw him under the bus. He pointed shit out, and like again, there were people that be biased against Mama Max. Fine. I looked at the video and I'm like, okay, with the next Taku thing mixed now with this Mama Max stuff, like again, I think Moonheart should not be trusted at all when it comes to opinions and stuff. That's my view on it. Because e- a person, every villain, at least one time or another, has some fucking validity to being, uh, shitting on, like that, whatever the case is. So Moonheart is over 2 at this point. So now that he had his tail tucked between his legs with drama and YouTube stuff, he goes on and he decides to go back to his bread and butter, which is technology. He decides that he wants to do gaming and whatnot. Now, he was doing a good job until he tries to thump his chest and say, "Hey, I am not going to buy the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm not going to pre-order the Switch 2. I'm not going to go to midnight release for the Switch 2. I'm not going to do anything with the Switch 2 because the Switch 2 is anti-consumerism. It's too much money. You don't really own your system. They could they could lock your system up in any way, shape, or form. The games aren't on the thing. Like everything's anti-consumerism, and also there's no real games to the Switch 2. Everything is just like Mario Mario Kart and third party titles that you could run beautifully on a decent run PC. And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, uh Mudahar fucking caved in. He caved in and he decided to buy it. Now, him him and many others who have thumped their chest saying they would never do it. That's, I mean, if you let, it's one thing if you criticize Nintendo for their bullshit, but the moment you say definitively, I am not going to do X, don't do Z, don't then buy it, especially on midnight release. It's so bad, folks, that he did an apology video. And ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm using the whole fucking like it for those that watch Moonheart, he uses ladies and gentlemen, but I feel this is very apropos. I bought it, who cares? And I could consumerism, yes, because the issue with the Switch 2 is the fact that if you mod the system and in any way, shape, or form, they could break the system. Again, It's not regular people could do whatever they want to do. That's them. I'm talking about the people that are on YouTube, Kia, that made it a stance. When you make a stance against something, then don't go around saying I'm gonna buy it. Let me just illustrate the point to you. Let me just show you before people like or whatever the case is. And again, let's see if I could find it. Hopefully I don't get. Here you go.
A few videos on the Switch 2. I ended up buying.
Okay, I'm gonna show this real quick. Yeah, but that's not anti-consumerism. It wait, what are you talking about? It's not, it is. If you buy the system, if let's say you buy the system and all of a sudden it just locks up, it bricks on you. You have to call like you can't. It's like saying, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's just say you buy a car and then all of a sudden the car doesn't want to work at all. You have to call the company and say, "Oh, it doesn't work. Can you please unlock something I bought?" That's what I'm trying to say. The idea of ownership is null and void. You know what I mean? Like if you buy a piece of if you buy something but you can't use it because someone else is dictating what you're doing, that's not good. Make you spend money you don't want to spend because others are doing it. That's actually consumerism in action. Wherever you want to find what I'm saying it as, that's what it is. It's not. It's like maybe the term is not the proper one, but if you buy something, I should be able to have it. It's mine. It's my thing. I should be able to. I should be able to tinker with it any way, shape, or form, and not have to worry about not being able to have it repaired or fixed or whatnot. That's. But anyways, let me just put this up because okay, cool. Now the reason why he's apologized is because he made a big stink. I want to show you this.
Buying that Nintendo Switch 2, even though I said that I was going to hold off. I wasn't just going to go buy it outright. And there I was, going on a midnight release, and I ended up picking it, just on a walk in. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, there's no way to sugarcoat or cut around this. I did, in fact, commit a hypocrisy. I made a mistake. I should have not bought this product. Now, I made a few videos on the Switch 2. Well, not a few, several. And I've basically covered it. I've not been the most positive viewer of it, especially around certain things like those game key cards, and especially about their TOS, when apparently it seems like they can just brick your systems, and more specifically around the fact that maybe the system is in fact a brick when you ended up picking it up. Now, as you all know, yesterday I made a pretty big mistake. I actually made a video with the Switch 2 inside the actual frame. I actually had one on screen. I bought one. I used it to play Cyberpunk 2077 on it. Now, the reason why this was a pretty big mistake, and I do absolutely believe I should actually apologize to my audience, is I didn't practice what I preached. I said you should vote with your wallet, and what did I do? I straight up charged my card and got the Switch 2. And for that,
I love how these are, but this is not just me picking on Murha. This is a bunch of people. If you're going, like I said, if you're going, for me personally, as someone that's a gaming enthusiast, I don't think the Switch 2 is. Oh, that's another thing I forgot. You can't use the game micro like for any. Okay, you know how like yeah, that's the thing. Here's the argument. You cannot use a game microphone to talk to your friends online. I believe Nintendo had Discord installed onto their thing. So if you don't have like the Nintendo subscription, you can't. So they paywalled a feature on the Switch. You can't use it at all. And people could say, yeah, but Huggy, what about the Xbox and PlayStation? Don't you need to pay for online to do that? No, you do have to pay for online to play multiplayer, but you don't have to pay to use the party chat feature. You can literally play single player games, and you could still use the voice chat feature to talk to your friends. Now they allow Discord on PlayStation and Xbox, so you don't really need to pay for anything to talk to your friends over line. But with Nintendo, you have to pay for that. Again, why is something that is free now on PlayStation, Xbox, and obviously on PC? Why is that? Why do you have to pay to talk to your friends on Nintendo? Again, this has nothing to do with people buying the Switch. Enjoy it, love it, cherish it. I'm happy for anyone that bought a Switch 2, really. But this is just it's getting to a point where now everything has been so blasé when it comes to YouTubers who tell you, "Hey, if you buy this, you are stupid for buying it because this is anti-gamer and it's so bad." But then once they do it, they want you to forgive them, and that's not cool. That's not you can't keep on relying on the goodwill of your peoples to uh defend you or forgive you for your retardation. It's That's not it.
For that, it's actually a pretty big apology. Like, there's no way to really say anything. There's no really any way to sugarcoat it. It's an actual mistake. You know, you can sit and blame other people, but ultimately, you know, I think the community kind of made it known that I would be one of those gamers that would fall into FOMO. And even though that I don't personally think that I'm the reason that video games have just gotten more expensive, ultimately, the actions that I did do contribute.
Like I said, the actions that you did, like I said, you and others have you can't like it's going to get to a point where people gaming influencers or whatever you want to call it, it's going to get to a point where people are not going to take their word for it. They're not going to trust their judgment on stuff. If someone goes on and says, "Hey, this this gaming console or this game or this is bad because of X, Y, and Z," how can as gamers believe or trust in that opinion or use that opinion as a reference to make an informed decision on a product? At this point, people like Murahar and others uh, are not, and I'm saying Murahar first, and Murahar is front and center of this because Murahar is very outspoken with many things, and it's like you can't like in the past, IGN used to be something that I think in the very beginning people believed in. G4 TV with X Play, Attack on the Show, and other gaming shows, they used to be reputable. Now you get the corporate nonsense, the politics, the brand deals, everything gets so diluted that you don't know whether or not they're a talking head or is their real opinion on a product, a game, or whatnot. Or if the quote unquote FOMO is affecting everyone else's brains, that they talk shit about something but they're like, I really want to play this. I don't want to be the only one left out. If you deem something is bad for your hobby, and then you yourself are participating in it, you then can't go around and say, but guys, you can't be a part of it because this is bad for the industry. This is bad for brand. And there'll be people that might not agree with what I'm saying with this, and that's fine. But everyone should be held to some type of standard when it comes to opinion. I mess up a lot. Everyone in the community could attest to this. I mess up quite a bit. But I have learned the art of admitting when I'm wrong and just stop at that. I'm not gonna do no qualifiers. I'm not gonna be like, but yes and, but and, or whatever. I just cut it. It's like the same thing with the stuff from yesterday where we spoke about Sweet Tea and Billy. Like, if Sweet Tea had learned how to just took responsibility for her feelings, her actions, her words, and not drag it out as much as it can, things would be cut off, and then sure, there could be a little bit hit of reputation, but at the very least, you could say that it didn't have to go along as long as it did. It's all about reputation. It's all about being honest with your community. You're human. It's understandable. But but again, if you cannot allow yourself to say it's a mistake when you went into a store, you saw the thing. It wasn't like you were tricked into buying the fucking Switch. It wasn't as if someone gave you a shitty deal. It wasn't as if someone sneaked a Switch 2 into your cart and oopsie doopsie you swiped your card for something that you didn't want. You weren't tricked. No one put a gun to your head. You made it a mistake. That's not a mistake at all. It's purposeful. But then again, people have argued that he could have reviewed the product and returned it and just say, hey, I bought it to look at it, to inspect it, to do whatever, and then I would have then I would go and returned it, and that would be that. That's my review of the Switch. Hell, he could have just said I bought it for my niece, nephew, brother, sister. He could have made some, like, if he really didn't want to get the backlash that he's getting from the community, he could have been like, I bought this for my sibling because I really really wanted it, and like, even though I'm against it, I want to make my family happy, and people would have understood it. But no, he took the route of like, it was a mistake, I bought it, and I can't return it, so I'm still keeping it, type of thing, which is weird.
Tribute to the fact that video games would have gotten more expensive, or at least the aspect of it would become more normalized. And ultimately, there's really no other way to, just apologize and say that I'll do better moving forward. And to be fair, the biggest sigh of relief for me is to sit over here and apologize for purchasing a video game system, right? There's a lot of things that a YouTuber can do that would be very illegal, very wrong, ethically, not even just legally. that I could sit down here and apologize for. And that is the only thing that I've really thanked God today for not doing. I could apologize for far more worse, but realistically, it's just apologizing for purchasing the system that I kind of made a big hullabaloo about, right? And obviously, gaming boycotts are something that unfortunately traditionally do not work just because people end up buying them. And in this case, I was one of those people. Now, I do want to kind of defend myself a little bit and just kind of talk about this, because I don't want to just say that, I don't want to just say sorry. I do want to give an explanation. Obviously, that night I was coming home, bought a Switch.
Wait, are you calling me pathetic, Kia? Wait, why is he apologizing? Haha. wait, wait, are you calling me? Because I'm like, what the fuck are you, no. Why is he apologizing? Because he said it, you know what the what great another example is? Hey, that girl's fuck, for example. Oh, that girl sweet tea's ugly. Sweet tea smells. Oh my god. Who everyone dates sweet tea? Blah blah blah. And then the next day I say to you, hey Kia, guess what? I made out with sweet tea. Wait, but you were talking about shit about sweet tea now, so you're making out with her? That's the type of thing that you talk so much shit about one person, one thing, and then all of a sudden when you get found out, then you have to fucking apologize. Huggy, we're going to fight. Listen, you go get your fucking Java monster, Miss Cal, okay? And then after the stream, you want to fight with me? We'll fight. I'll even go to your fucking Discord if you want to fight. I'm more than ready for you. I have my bagel. I have my apple juice in a sippy cup. I'm fine. I will fight you. Just say I changed my mind. Kia is so pragmatic. I adore this woman.
And one of the reasons I wanted to buy the Switch is to kind of look at that brick capability. I wanted to see if you can fire the system up, you can make a local account, you can connect without, utilizing any patches. And thankfully you actually can, as long as you have a Switch 2 and of course a game, which this is something that I'm actually keeping stock, or not just actually, I had a Cyberpunk 2077. As long as you have a game with an actual, completed update on the cartridge, this system is completely usable offline, which was pretty important to me because I didn't want to see another system release as a pure on brick. So as long as you have a system with, again, a video game, it seems things can just work out of the box. Now, as far as Switch 1 stuff goes, that still needed you to patch for getting the backwards compatibility going in. But if you were just buying Switch 2 games, then surprisingly, everything just worked out of the box. The other thing I wanted to see was, again, the functionality of these games too, especially one game completed on the system. And for that, I played Cyberpunk 2077. In fact, that was a pretty massive section of the video where I just showed the game actually running for anybody to come into the video, watch, and see. Now, I could make the video overly negative, or I could make it overly positive, but the reason I just kind of went the way that I did was I wanted to just objectively look at this product as what it was and talk about things, right? And, one of the things that I kind of read was...
So let's pause right here real quick. Let's go to his thingy. Here you go.
Why I'm not buying that Switch 2 right now, said the Indian guy. The Switch 2's sitting on his desk. Now let me explain, okay? Let me explain myself real quick. I actually had no intentions of picking this device up, but surprisingly, Nintendo has done a pretty good job. Was that a voice crack? God damn, am I slipping through people? Jesus. But I actually had no intention. Surprisingly, Nintendo has a pretty decent stock pool of these things. I actually called up a EB Games near my place, probably like 20 minutes away. And they said, yeah, you can just walk in and pick up a Switch 2 tonight. And I was like, you know what? What if I could? So, ladies and gentlemen, I thought you typically had to pre-order these. I don't know, the last several years of like buying any electronic, it almost feels like you either have to go through a scalper or actually
You know why people? You know why they could? You could buy Switch 2s, Mister Ordinary Gamers. You know why? Other people have told them that this is a very bad product. That maybe some of them don't. We're not going to support $80 games. Maybe they didn't want to support. There not be any major releases, unique releases, unique third party releases to it. Maybe that's the thing, Warhawk. Maybe this whole thing about pre-orders selling out was nonsense. Maybe there are a few cities here and there, maybe a few states here and there, but legitimately speaking, when gamers heard this stuff, none one was really interested in pre-ordering it. That's the thing. You have scalpers fucking buying up Switch 2s and with and it's and people and they bought this at bulk, I assume, but now this stock everywhere you see, it's like, what's the point of scalping when I could just go when they could go to their local wherever and just pick it up at market value because there's so much of it. So let's continue.
wait a month before these devices become available. But there's actually like Switches available. Like you can go pick them up in the store right now. At least where I live, in the outskirts of the Greater Toronto area. Okay, I don't want to like dox myself through this. So I was out with my brother. You know, we had good food, we had a good time, and we were like, you know what? It's 10 o'clock. Why don't we try the entire Switch? So I go to the store, and the lineup is long, okay? But it gets even longer, by the way, to the point where one of the employees has to come out, and they're just going like, listen, we can't just sell Switches to like 600 people. You're gonna have to leave. And at one point in the line, it got cut off, but we were pretty much at the front of the door anyways. I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised I got there in time. For the first time in my life, I actually managed to make going up to one of these lineups actually worth it. But to be fair, midnight releases, man, they're a dying breed, okay? I remember distinctly being in high school.
You hate the fucking thing so much that you went to a midnight release. Again, you go on YouTube and then you fucking want bitching and complaining about the Nintendo Switch being a bad console. Being a bad console, it goes against gaming. It does all this other stuff. But then you go to a midnight release of a fucking console release. That's like you being in the front of a. That's like you being the first person at a strip club trying to get a dance from the local thought that everyone says that's disgusting, has bullet holes all over her abdomen. You talk shit about her, but you're the first one to get that lap dance from. What the fuck are we doing here?
Like waiting for like what Gears of War, Call of Duty, Halo Reach. You know that golden age of 360 gaming. It feels like the midnight launch is dying.
And he's fucking trying to justify, like, again, guys. It's just the reason why I'm making a thing for is because when you go to a midnight release to anything, it is something that you truly want. It is something that you feverishly need in your life. It's like Tyrone in the Chappelle skit, like he wants that crack. That's what midnight releases are. You need that fix. You need to be the first ones to get the game, to be on the thing, to play with your friends, to be the very first ones. It's like a midnight release for World of Warcraft expansions. You guys have to be the first one to do the raids. You have to be the first ones to be in the expansions. You guys have to be the first ones to do anything and everything to rub your tipples and be like, oh my god, this is so great. But for him, he's talking shit about the Switch 2, and now he's rubbing his tipples for this.
Like, it's a great place. Like, you go out to these places, you talk to gamers, you meet some cool people. It's a fun vibe, okay? The last time I went to a midnight release was probably, what, like Tears of the Kingdom? So literally, it's just Nintendo keeping it alive. I imagine the next time I get to any game release that has a midnight launch, hopefully it's like GTA 6. But anyways, enough about midnight launches. I don't want to depress myself with a dying breed of something amazing. Anyways, the Switch 2. So how is it, ladies and gentlemen? It's better than the Switch 1. Obviously, it runs better than the Switch 1, obviously. And what about the actual stuff that I've heard, Muda? Does this thing actually run like a brick? So I want to just get past some of the things initially that kind of, raised red flags. So setting the Switch 2 up is really not that convoluted of an affair. You fire it up, you connect it to a Wi-Fi network. It does need to download an update once you connect it, but there are ways, I believe, that you can just skip entirely connecting and you can just go right into the Switch 2, which I haven't tried it personally, but I haven't read anywhere online that an internet connection is absolutely needed to play actual Switch 2 games. Now, I did pick up one Switch 2 game that didn't ship on a stupid game key card, and that was Cyberpunk 2077. Now, surprisingly, CD Projekt Red is the only developer other than fucking Nintendo that shipped a whole ass game on a cartridge. So yes, this is a full 60 gigabyte game on a cartridge. You don't even need to download any day one update, and it ships entirely on cart with the DLC and everything. What a novel concept. You know, it actually blows my mind that you can stick a 60 gigabyte game into like the cartridge slot of an actual Nintendo Switch and just play it without actually installing it because of reading and writing limitations. So yeah, this game actually works out of the box. Now, as far as Switch 1 games go, they also do work out of the box, but I want to talk about performance really quickly. This is something that kind of blew my mind away. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 is, in my opinion, the real showpiece piece of software for this device. It basically takes advantage of everything the Switch 2 has to offer from like functionality perspective, but from a performance level, there's two options. There's a quality mode and a performance mode. Now, if you play the game on quality, I believe it runs at like 1080p, 30 frames per second on your actual like handheld device, which looks great. But if you set it to performance, it goes up to 40 frames at 720p. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's not 60 Muda, and it's also 720p. All right, so now for the remainder of the video, I think I'll really just be showing you this footage of... Okay, so now for the remainder of this video, I really think it's better that I show you the handheld footage of Cyberpunk 2077. I actually think that's what most people who are clicking on this video probably want to see more of, and I'm just going to give you that footage instead of looking at that fat Indian guy talking into the camera. So when playing this video game, I'm going to tell you right now, it looks really nice. It's very sharp, and when I compare it to the Steam Deck, for instance, right, and I'm using the Steam Deck OLED, so not an apples-to-apples comparison, the one key difference is while the HDR and a lot of the colors look better on the OLED screen because of how the Steam version runs, because of the fact that the Steam Deck is a Linux-based device, it's not using any NVIDIA hardware. The upscaling that you need to get a playable frame rate, so anything between 30 to anything above really on the Steam Deck, requires you to use something known as FSR. Now, you can use things like Intel XeSS, you can use other upscalers, but generally comparing this to the Steam Deck at all gives you a blurry image. And there's really no way to get that image sharp unless you're willing to sacrifice the frame rate of the game. Now, playing the Switch version of the game, the Switch 2, it runs, from my understanding, on DLSS's hardware-based upscaling. And this is like a night and day difference in terms of clarity. I'm sure if you're...
Now, that's his thing. Okay.
It's like, the grifter stuff. You were just grifting on that hate. Well, if I was grifting on the hate and I released that, video, I would probably be overly negative, or I would try to spread some level of misinformation to garner more viewership on hating the device or loving the device. But in reality, I just wanted to cover things from an objective perspective. I wanted to show that there were some games, Cyberpunk 2077, which worked out of the box day one. Now, there is like one other game, or, I think actually 3 other games, all from Nintendo, that all come pretty much on the cartridge, being Mario Kart World, Legend of Zelda, both Legend of Zeldas, and they all just come pretty much without that game key card stuff. So one of the things that I didn't do in that video was obviously buy the game key card stuff. Like, I didn't go out into the store and purchase those GIMP copies that I was speaking so much against, which, again, I only really bought the system and the one game that was of any interest to me, just so I can show it in the video. And ultimately, regardless of what I'm saying over here, all of that is still a mistake. I was hypocritical. I bought a device that, I actually shouldn't have. I contributed to, unfortunately, a bad practice in the gaming industry, right? Which was supporting this Nintendo system. I did want to cover it from a review perspective. I did want to cover it just from the preservationist perspective to see if a lot of those alarm bells that were ringing literally days before the system was actually launching were actually valid alarm bells. But ultimately, look, at the end of the day, there's nothing I can say to, not accept actual fault at purchasing the system when I made a big hullabaloo about it. And ultimately, for that, I do completely apologize. There's no joke, no fun you can make in this manner. I feel like ultimately, I do have to apologize for that, and that's what I do. Now, if you're somebody that, is, looking at me and, you don't want to watch my videos anymore because...
People say... Here's the thing. You were very wishy-washy with the next Taku stuff. You say Nux got kicked off because of the stuff with the fucking lolly stuff. Then you try gaslight Chud to say it never happened. Though your wife tried to gaslight. I think your wife confirmed the suspicions. Then you did an apology. Then you deleted the apology. So that's strike 1, and that 1 and 2. The fucking the Mama Mac stuff. That's a fucking foul tip. It's still a strike, but it's a foul tip. It's this this is like a cherry on the shit sundae of like your credibility of his credibility, because you can't take any word for it. Again, as Cal said, as Kias, even Cal said, he didn't need to apologize. He could have been like, "Listen, I talked shit about it, but I want to review it to confirm my hypothesis." It could have been just that. If he wanted to speak like he wanted to really investigate the switch, he wanted to he he wanted to see if everything was true about it. He like be have being some of that experience in it. Fine, you're assigned like you're a researcher. You need to have your hands on this stuff. You need to be able to, you know, find out firsthand and don't go by hearsay about the experiences people have of it. But then when you have titles like "I'm not gonna pre-order it," "Do not pre-order it," and you do, again, that's really shitty behavior. That's really that's the type of behavior that like people are not gonna trust you on anything. Because let's just say, for example, the PS6, PS6 comes out, right? And there's wonky stuff too. There's stuff that you as a gamer do not agree with. Then what? Are you gonna say that you're not gonna pre-order the PS6? You're not gonna buy the PS6? I mean, that release. Are you gonna say that, or are you will you be bashing it, and then all of a sudden you play it, and you're like, "Oopsie doopsie, I'm sorry for saying all that shit about PS6, but I really want to buy it to try the stuff out to see if I was right about stuff." So
because you don't like me anymore because of the Switch 2 stuff, then, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to wave bye. We're going to have to wave bye at each other. All I can really do is say I'm sorry. That's really all I can do. I can't just whip myself or do something to self-flagellate myself just for the camera at this point.
you kind of are, because you made an 11-minute video. All you have to say is like, "Listen, I wanted to review. I know I talked shit about the Nintendo Switch too, but I wanted to see it for my own two eyes with these two hands. I wanted to break down the system. I wanted to see what the hubbub was about. That's all. I just wanted to do it." But then you say everything is a mistake. No, no one forced you with a gun to your head to say you need to go to this midnight release. You need to go to EB Games. You need to wait online with 600 plus people. You need no one. It wasn't a mistake. You have free will. Stop saying it's a mistake. You know what is a mistake? You gaslighting Chud. You know what was a mistake? Burying fucking Mama Max when everyone was burying Mama Max. You know what was a mistake? Fucking your bullshit with the deep web stuff. Those are mistakes. How does it look that fucking Boogie is doing better than you right now? Boogie knows she's a piece of shit, but at least Boogie is in the pocket of being a piece of shit. You tried to be high and mighty with fucking Boogie, and now look at you. The Nuck stuff, the Mama Mac stuff, now this. Who's gonna who's gonna trust you? And you try to be like with Boogie, who's gonna trust you? It's like it's like that Spider-Man meme. You guys are pointing at one another. Who could trust you? No, who could trust you? At this point, I trust Boogie more so than anything else, because at least Boogie can admit he's a piece of shit. Yes, he lied about cancer, but like I said, it's not like Boogie trying to peddle anything differently. And I'm not saying that I'm a big Boogie fan. Boogie could go Rob all I give a F about. But with Murderheart, he wants to hide behind the fact that everything is a fucking mistake. No, we're not doing that. Be a just keep it. It's like the acronym KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And unfortunately, he doesn't keep it simple.
All I can really do is say I'm sorry, and I'll do better next time. And ultimately, for me, as somebody that's made tons of videos on countering misinformation regarding game preservation, when people talk about, like, how every disc nowadays is a digital download, and there really isn't any way to preserve video games anymore. And I have made videos where I've talked about this, I've corrected the misinformation. For me, the Switch 2 was kind of like that, right? I wanted to see if in this situation, game preservation, at least for fully completed titles, was actually there. And obviously, I did make a point in that video, if you watch it, where I said, when this device has 256 gigs on it, buying game key cards, already completely incomplete copies, you're going to be basically downloading and filling your entire new system up with just like, 4 or 5 games effectively down the road. And that's going to become a pretty huge problem, not just for game preservation, but for the average person that, probably isn't also going to spend 80, 90 bucks, 70 bucks, whatever, to buy external media for the system. These are all things that I did talk about in the video, and these were kind of the most important things for me too. The other thing was obviously seeing how a game like Cyberpunk 2077 could run on a newer ARM-based chip device. Now, ultimately, as part of my apology, all I can really say is, look, at the end, I am sorry. I probably shouldn't have contributed to Nintendo's dog shit in video gaming, but ultimately I did. And, I'm one of the bad people in this process. Now, do I think that I'm the most evil person in the world? No, I don't think that. And I don't even see...
You're just an idiot. You're just an idiot with FOMO. That's all it is. You're an idiot. You're an idiot that gave in. That's all it is. It's not that hard. It's not like you fucking diddled anyone. It's not like you're on trial for bad stuff. You're just a fucking idiot. That's all you are.
Really anybody saying that, but as far as being hypocritical and bad for gaming, I can definitely see how I've contributed to that, and for that I just really humbly apologize. There's no if, and, or but around it. It is just a straight apology to anybody that felt slighted, hurt, or disappointed in this entire process. For that, my community is pretty important to me, and ultimately I really did feel like, because I had a platform, and I could talk a little bit...
Why the fuck are you... Listen, Cal, I adore you. You are cool, but why the fuck are you threatening me on my goddamn stream, woman? Why? You have to yell at me. Oh my god. I can't wait. I can't wait. I'll just have backup. I'll make sure to get my shield and sword for you. Who cares that Murderheart can be two-faced? Because it's stupid that he's doing this. That's why. That's why. She didn't yet. Wait, hold on. Did I? Oh. There you go. I'ma yell at you for saying nice things about Mama Max. Okay, I'll be there for backup. She didn't yell yet. I'ma yell. My sword is coming along apparently. Not to this to Mama Max. Oh god, I'm gonna folks, I'm gonna die. So just remember, Huggy loves you. Huggy adores you. Okay? Let's continue.
A bit about the game preservation angle, maybe it was worth showing. To me, if there was something
supreme over everyone in this school, I am the golden god of this place. I reign supreme.
Thank you for the follow. 1 second.
Supreme over everyone in this school. I am the golden god of this place. I reign supreme.
Ma'am, I'm not a fucking loose cannon. Shut up. Loose cannon. Whatever. Let me continue. Let me finish this.
Completely warranted purchase. because then I could at least alert some people that, yeah, this thing is actually a confirmed brick. Yes, actually, all these games, even the ones that ship completely on cart, don't just work day one. These would be pretty huge points. But when I actually got the device and I tested it myself, I couldn't find that to be the case. So it was really just to be honestly reporting on something versus, maybe raising more misinformation and hurting myself down the road a lot harder than, the hurt that I've taken right now. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. I can just look into the camera and just say, I'm sorry, I'll do better. And that's pretty much all it comes down to. And the only thing I'm really thankful about here is I could be apologizing for, like, as a YouTuber, there's apology videos that I've watched through my career where people have done really terrible things. And ultimately, this might be one of the worst things that I've done, which genuinely is support bad game practices and, not practice what I preach. I can't make videos where I say I'm not going to be buying a Nintendo Switch, day one at least, and then here I am buying it day one. Even if, personally, I felt making the content, and at least if I could find something scathing about it, I could talk about, sure. But for me, I'm still not somebody that is in line to be, I guess, known as a hypocrite in this regard. And for that, I do apologize. I've done something wrong, which is purchasing the device after the hullabaloo that I've raised. And for that, all I can do is honestly just apologize. Really, that's all I can do. So if you accept this apology, great. If
You want to fight with me on stream, Cal? You want to fight with me, or do you want to take this out back? I'm more than happy to have a public fight with you. I'm fine with that. If you choose to. If you don't want to fight with me publicly, that's fine too. Oh, my back. Oh, God. Oh, God. Everything hurts. I'll fight you. I don't care. We box.
if you don't accept this apology, then it is what it is. But yeah, our word is really all we have. That's really what it comes down to. What I will not apologize for is purchasing and keeping Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch. I really feel like even if you're not buying the Nintendo Switch 2 and you've got the money, you should probably signal to the industry that buying a completed Switch game, or buying a complete product on launch with all the DLC onto it is something that should be supported, right? And especially considering that a lot of games release with tons of great expansion packs that never end up showing up on actual release anymore. Like, they don't get re-released down the road. It used to be back in the day that when a game launched, a year later, after it got like 3-4 single-player expansions, you ended up getting like a Game of the Year edition. Now you still get the Game of the Year edition, but sometimes, in most cases, you end up getting like a little piece of paper inside with a code that doesn't even have the whole game. So yeah, for that, I will never actually truly apologize for this. Nor will I ever apologize for picking up games like Stalker, which are these completed Japanese re-releases of 3 games on 1 cartridge. But anyways, I'm kind of talking and talking in circles, really. Apologize.
He's too not no to not. Now we're going out front. Okay, you want to go out front, woman? Here, how about this? I'll be in live. I'll wait for you. If you want to fight me, fight me. If you don't want to fight me, then I will just hold on. Input the fights and let me go here to here. Booyah. Here, I'll be in live. Right? If you pop in, you pop in. If you don't want to pop in, I'll just go to your Discord and that's it. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the Sonic Troop. Oh, that's right. That's right. I think he has Sonic Troop medallion. I forgot. See, I blame Sonic Troop. It's it's the I don't know. Is Christian still alive? That's my. Another thing is that how the fuck does Christian get away from dealing with not Kia Cal? I'm gonna go into your Discord after this. Okay, Kia could come by. We could chit chat a little bit while you have your coffee, cause I'm ready for you. I went to I went to church at 3 o'clock in the morning. I sang the praises to the Lord. I did my hymns. I did my Bloody Marys. I did confessional. I got the power of the Lord on my side. Okay, no weapon formed against me shall ever prosper. For I am a man of faith. I am someone. How you not know? Why? I was being fucking funny, women. Of course I know he's still alive, but she's alive, or they are alive. What the fuck? Fucking whatever. Chris Chan must got a trans-dimensional fucking luck on his side. And by the way, I hope Chris Chan gets his comic somehow, some way. If if the Sonic Shoe comic is released officially, he is going to be the greatest locale to ever exist. He will be God King of locales. Think of it. He went from sticking things up his poop chute to getting arrested and jailed for having shame with his mother to being released to have his Sonic Shoe comic being made official by Sega and Pokemon. Which, by the way, if it if in a different universe, if the Sonic 2 uh if the Sonic 2 um comic stories became official, like you could buy it on Amazon or whatnot, he it will be sold out. Pre-orders will be all sold out. The internet itself would be ablaze. Like I think people would legitimately not know what to do in themselves. I make the Blind Mary look strong, so heads up. Okay, but to be fair, legally you cannot say he raped his mom. Don't defame Christian. I ain't defaming nothing, okay? I'm just saying he said this, and then whatever the case is. But they're probably gonna be they're gonna be a pretty legal plum you make. Okay, well, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you for everyone coming by to this impromptu stream. I know after this I'm gonna get my head taken off by a fucking witch. I'm prepared for it. If I don't die, just know that next Sunday's my birthday. Yay me! It's gonna be the cake day for the huggy. Uh, I'll be doing a marathon, right? At midnight, I'll do a stream and stuff. So we'll see. Um, Also, I will be so if anyone is interested in donating, super chat, super anything, if people want to do Amazon wish list, I'll build something nice and sexy for anyone that wants to do it if they choose to. But super things, super chats, and also Discord will be open to anyone that wants to party with me on my birthday or sing happy birthday to me, make me feel like a fancy princess. Um, yeah, I'm excited for that. That bitch was such a sicko. Sorry, I'll be at GameStop at midnight like every night. And not like someone couldn't convince Christian to say some weird shit. Just like a poop and spell being a grassy, a gross and nasty you cunt. Whatnot. That bitch was such a sicko. Sorry, I'll be at GameStop like every night. Okay, well, folks, with that being said, thank you all for being here. Yeah, I wouldn't want it any other way.